Nah, I'm here for the ride of life, bro. This has been a journey for me, bro.
Yeah, I hear
I
that.
can't even hold you.
Well, okay, so it's been a journey, right?
Yeah.
And its knowledge itself is for us not to be particles with aimless directions. So we can have direction of where we want to go. So just think about that. The knowledge itself is for, so you can have direction, not to just be coasting along and
Nah, I like to assimilate wisdom from brothers who like don't speak with their ego as well, bro. Honestly, no bullshit. But that's just me, bro. I'm just my own soul, bro. You know, like I tell people.
that's what you gotta be, is your own self.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm the truest version of myself, bro.
You gotta have knowledge of yourself.
I'm trying to be.
Okay.
I don't think I'm better. I don't think I'm lesser.
You're in the
I
right
hope
place.
I'm equal.
You're in the right
I only
place.
pray I'm equal, bro.
You're in the right place to get knowledge of yourself.
Nah, for real, that's real. That's real.
Gabriel, you DM me the other day?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I was like, hey.
Sometimes I don't remember who's DMing me and what.
Yeah, I'm that one weird dude on your Instagram that I don't got too many followers, so you probably don't even really like notice.
What's your name on the Instagram?
It's let me check. It's King Gabriel or like King _ the Ghost.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that guy. That's my alter ego online.
Gabriel, how old are you?
24 now.
24.
Wow, okay.
You just
I was about your age when I came here.
for real?
Yeah. I was considered too old.
Serious?
Yeah.
They was on that
Yeah.
age restriction.
You know, people look at it that way only if they're that age that it gets restricted. But
But what if I was in prison? What if like this started when I was in prison?
Doesn't matter.
I started becoming indoctrinated with knowledge.
it's really
You know what I'm saying?
it's really irrelevant though, because when somebody says that,
Yeah.
that's just really teaching.
Right,
They
right.
don't. Your life is not relevant to the way we make our decisions. You know.
That's real.
It's really relevant that the babies are the greatest. You know. I didn't get much about my age though, because I was already like, you know, I hit the floor running. You know. The next year I started teaching this class, so you know I was doing stuff. I was writing stuff. I was part of the school's board.
Yeah.
I was a secretary on it. You know, so I was doing stuff. So you
How
know,
was your life like at that time? If you mind me asking, like, was it
I had.
as shady as mine?
My life is not shady by anybody's definition. You know, my life is busy. It's a little
Yeah.
different. You know, I think that's the best solution for anybody's life that seems horrendous. Make it busy. You know what I mean? I don't really have time to deal with shadiness. I'm too busy. You know what I mean? I was finishing college. I had maybe like a class or two left.
Okay.
Wasn't so good at it either. So it was the last classes that I really didn't do good in. And I remember I took finance like 3
Where
times.
did you go to?
I went to school at Baruch College
For like finances?
for marketing management.
Management?
And only because I started, I couldn't afford to
That's
get,
pretty good.
get a new degree. But I've never had a job in marketing management. Never. All my jobs are were in journalism or teaching. So I've never done that. You know? But yeah. During that time the studies weren't important to me. I only memorized enough to pass a class. And then I forgot it. I spent my time in Baruch College making newspaper, you know, being on the school newspaper, writing articles, caring about that, caring about the way I developed my writing skills. I didn't care about anything else, you know. That's why I met the God that brought me here, Day Sun, you know. He was at a lot of magazines as well. So at the time I was just starting to write at certain magazines. What was it? First Vibe, then Double XL, and a couple of other magazines that did.
Yeah. Well, that's a problem.
No, I was saying, well, I mean, you in between different worlds, or you in class, where you at?
Yo, bro, you talking to a grown ass man like that, bro? What is wrong with you? You good, bro?
No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
in terms of respect to the class.
Yeah, no, I get it, bro. I could pause it, brother. But
Okay,
there's a way
peace,
to
peace.
relay that, brother.
Okay, peace. I'm just saying.
Peace, God.
Okay.
I came from Massachusetts, my brother. I don't know what your life was like when you came out here, bro. You walked into class, bro. Came from a long way from home. I ain't got nobody. No bullshit. So if y'all told me, yo, get the fuck out of here, it ain't new to me, bro. It's not new being kicked out, being looked at like,
I'll say this,
I don't
though.
like you.
Let me
No
say
bullshit. That's
this
nothing
though,
new to
right?
me, bro.
If you when you come here to get the knowledge, right?
That's what I'm here for, my brother.
Right?
I've been quiet.
You also have to go get it. You also have to be tough about it and thick-skinned. You know, don't be thin-skinned. Some of the toughest responses are those from the thin-skinned, not the thick-skinned. Okay? So, and take that as, a real thing, because I've heard everything in here. Anything horrible, anything mean that anybody could say to anybody, I've heard it here. I'm too light, too short. I'm not Brooklyn enough. I'm not from the heart of Medina, right? Because I'm from Medina, but I'm not from the heart of Medina, right? I've heard every dumbass thing you could say, So if somebody says I'm too old to get it, that's not even close to anything.
My heart, where my heart be at, bro?
What I'm
some real shit,
right.
Bro. Y'all be overlooking prison.
Right.
Y'all be saying, "Oh, we don't care about that," but on some real shit, bro. If we was in prison, bro, this man would not come up to me telling me that, bro. Some real shit, bro. And that's the reason that I haven't been back in his class in a while, bro.
But listen,
this is why I just try to come back, bro.
Listen to what I'm saying, though, right?
Here with my heart kind of black.
But listen what I'm saying, Gabriel, right? Listen what I'm saying, right? You're thinking of it the wrong way.
Not
Okay?
trying to.
Let everyone validate the knowledge that they have and have a keen eye and a keen ear for those that really have this knowledge, okay? So, the way you're perceiving the God right now, right? What would never happen to me, right? Is if somebody talked to me like that, and personally they did, right? Is that I would always know who everybody was that was talking to me, right? So it's like this, right? There's a certain amount of letting go. There's a certain amount of information you're getting here, and there's a certain amount of knowledge that was kept under very difficult circumstances to develop and also to keep and to share, right? So you gotta know who's who and who's what. What do they do? Why do they speak like that? Okay? So what I'm saying by thin skin is I know you're as manly and as tough as you can be, right?
Sure, bro.
Right? No, that's
Like,
guaranteed.
that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, right?
I don't think I'm
But-
Iron Man here, bro.
No, but that's peace though, right? But what I'm saying is though, don't be thin-skinned where everything is offensive. Do the knowledge to everything, because when you learn this knowledge though, there are things that you hear that will be offensive or seem offensive. Don't take it that way, right? Be thick-skinned with everything, okay? Because I wouldn't be here teaching you if I got upset about that.
I just feel like if y'all knew me, y'all
Right?
wouldn't be speaking to me.
No, that's the whole thing.
Like, give it like
Wait, what does knowledge mean?
Bro,
What does knowledge mean, right? Knowledge is what? A truth that is known, an actual fact that can be proven and cannot be altered by statistic or perception, right? That's the whole thing. Nobody does know you, okay? So first off, don't assume unless you get more knowledge about how, let's say the God might be talking to everybody like that, or just you. Find out.
Let me qualify what I was saying though, because I don't know you, but I know this class, right? And this class is the Peace course, right? So.
I got these notes on this piece of paper right
Okay,
here 2 years ago, and I still got the book, my brother.
So you came to this class.
Yeah, brother. How you think I got these notes on this
Okay,
book, bro?
so
I wasn't watching YouTube when I wrote it down.
it's not an offense to you. It's a matter in respect to the class,
Of course.
and that's just all it is. It's not trying to come at you.
It's like, bro, honestly, bro, I had a forethought to turn my phone off. The class hasn't even started, my brother.
Okay, no,
so look at the infrastructure.
I was-
Like, look at the organization.
Yeah, okay, but
You know
I'm
what I'm
asking.
saying? You got an outsider looking at y'all right now, looking in, bro.
Okay,
You're talking to me right now.
But I'm asking you if that was your phone, right?
Of course.
Right?
Of course, and you knew it was. You
Okay.
knew it was. Come
No,
on.
well, also, we all have phones. We all
Of
have
course.
phones, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying if it is yours, so I would say out of respect for the class,
Of course. Righteous.
Righteous.
Yeah.
So righteous, that word right there.
Yeah, I misinterpreted.
Okay, that word righteous is like to be right. So we try. So with this culture, right, the correction is where you get the perfection.
Right.
So don't be offended by the correction. It's just about the, so that we could get to the perfection, that we could be better, all be better, and you could get the best out of these notes that you already have, and you get the best out of this class. And you can get the best out of me, because I'm here at service for you as well, because you were guessing, it's my home now. This is the law school, this is my home, so you can get the best out of me in my service to you.
Cool.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Peace, brother. I don't think I'm as gangsta, do that stuff in here and talking to you like I'm trying to walk over you, bro.
Likewise, me neither. Me neither. I'm not trying to
talking to a man that goes to the library.
I'm not trying to disrespect you either, but I just want you, like God said, like don't be offended and have thicker skin. We all gotta have thicker skin, right? Because like what just transpired between you and I could have jumped off into something else, right? But it could have. But we have
we be playing God if we try to predict the possibilities.
We are. That's the thing is we are.
You can't predict that possibility, bro.
No, but we can make the possibility, right?
It's a paradox.
But we made the possibility of it being peace and righteous.
Yeah.
We made
it's
that.
It's a contradiction. You do know that, right?
No, but we made that.
You just said you're God, bro, but you can't predict that possibility.
No, we did.
It's a contradiction.
How's it a contradiction?
Bro. Because, bro, you can't predict the next thing that's gonna pop off.
Where do you get?
Trust me.
What information you have though that says that God?
So, bro, honestly,
wait, no. I'm asking Now I'm asking a theological question within the bounds of the philosophy that we're dealing with, right? You were saying that there is some God out there that predicts everything.
I never said that.
Well, who predicts? Who is able to predict?
I should ask you that question actually.
You're asking me, but
it's
you
a
just
paradox. Now we're walking each other in
why?
circles.
No, but why is
walking
it?
to the contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction. You said that he's supposed to be able to.
If he's God.
Why?
No,
but why?
What's the definition of God for him before I make that interpretation?
That's it.
There you go. That's where I was going.
You said I don't want to be wrong, bro.
Do you
I don't want to walk to the edge with you, bro. Like, you're scaring me, bro, with your intellect, bro. I don't got that type of knowledge, God. I can't walk that far with you, bro.
You're just saying God, right?
I'm saying,
so you're acknowledging as
but
God.
it's a paradox, though, bro. Because think about God. If you think of God as an omnipotent being, then there you go. Welcome to that paradox, bro.
Yeah, but to think of God as an omnipotent being, though, means that you have to think of it something that has beyond the power that you have. There's no one to have ever shown and proven that existence, right? So anytime that someone tells me that, though, they're talking about something that they made up.
I smoke 3 months a day, bro. Bear with me, bro. Like, my brain is just...
Remember, the main teaching of our nation is that we don't deal with a mysterious being, energy, or force. So we don't deal with some omnipresent God, right? All of the powers that are within God are within what creation is. And everything that you see around you has been created by a real God. And that real God is standing in front of you. The thought of the man and that infinity of man that has always been here in the mind. So there is no mystery God. There is no hope that someone will do better. There is no hope that you'll do great and it'll latch on to some bigger latch. A greater latch of God, a greater...
Just release that
there is no mystery.
That looming idea that there is this architect.
We don't teach that.
Beyond that cosmic boundary, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people have that, but we don't teach that, and that has never been shown and proven.
Yeah. I don't like playing devil's advocate.
Whatever theology anyone has,
whatever
theology anyone has, there has never been shown and proven.
So in that sense, we did predict that possibility, right? Because we made it happen. We made it happen, right?
Hey, bro, if this is being recorded, you might be able to clip that, bro.
No, listen. But what I'm saying, what we're saying is that we created that reality of that possibility that you're talking about. If there were any other possibilities, we created it.
You guys did.
We did. You as well. You're a co-creator in that as well.
I was a spectator. You're on the chariot, my brother.
No. It's not like that. Because you're coming and you're adding on.
Yeah.
And you adding on, you add to the possibility. And so that's why I said we decide the possibilities. It's us. It's not just me. Like I'm not dictating anything to you. You're a part of it. So when he says that he's God, he's not just saying he's God of you or God of me. He's God of himself. I'm God of myself. You God of yourself. So you have control of yourself. So when you got upset, you got control over your own emotions to either take it to a level where it's beyond or a level where it's righteous. And you decided righteousness. I decided righteousness. We decided righteousness. So this is where we at right now, is in righteousness. Right? So but we could have decided it went elsewhere, but we didn't do that.
So we seen the videos of him hitting the
oh yeah.
Because he like, bruh, he gonna pull the sport out.
No. Nah.
My man got nunchucks back there.
Nah, I don't have none.
I was telling my mom about you, Sunez. For real. I was telling her about you. She's a devout Christian, you know? You can only try to make them understand by playing devil's advocate, right? You got to reverse psychology, the whole thing. So I'm like, yeah, they teaching crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if they're older than you, if they're your elders, like your parents and stuff, you only need to show them that you're righteous. You know what I mean? And now, what would be?
So it wouldn't be devil's
let's look at
advocate.
the way elders look at their religion and stuff, especially like one's parents and things like that. If you could show and prove to them that you are infallible in righteous principles, meaning that you have uncorruptible righteous principles, and they continue to lead and push you toward new work and new builds for your prosperity and for their prosperity, then you've already shown and proven that you're God. And trust me, they won't tell you that you're not God. They'll let you have your own delusion. Right? They'll let you have it. And a lot of things that you said that they thought that you were wrong about, they'll say that you've had some merit with them. But you have to show and prove. You have to show and prove that you're a builder. You build things, people can't really say anything. And I'm saying that because it happened with my parents. It happened, with elders, right? That were 85 that were close to me and stuff, right? They don't have to believe it though, but damn, they should. They're like, man, he's being what he said he was. Right?
Bro, you as legit as it gets, bro. I've been following you since like 2 years, I believe now, bro.
Well, let me tell you the major thing to learn in this classroom, right? Whether you're in this classroom or you're building outside of the classroom, this whole class was designed with the goal, the mission, right? Because most people's curriculums don't have a mission statement. The mission statement was here for you to realize what you can do, what you will do as a creator. What are your creative gifts? What are your abilities? What are your talents? These are things that are not developed, and a lot of people need extra schooling. Because if you're in here in this classroom, it means that the schooling that you got wasn't enough. Just like when I went to college, it wasn't enough.
I went to a class this week. Not to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, it's peace.
That, bro. Peace, God. I went to a mosque this week, bro. I took my shahada. I went to a Catholic church. I'm trying to get baptized, and I'm looking towards going to like a synagogue. I took some magic mushrooms, and I'm just really like just taking a theological approach on.
Well, listen. Let me fast forward for you, okay? To see how I'm looking at you, right?
I'm being weird.
All right.
I am being weird,
there's many people that have done what you've done. Maybe not all on the same day, like you're doing, but Nah, it's fine. It's fine. You show me later. But what I'm saying is this: a lot of people come here as one of the either the last resort or one of those options to find their spirituality. Okay. What I could offer you is this: is that if someone looked at my life and said, let me try to guess Sunez's religion, all that they would guess was that he has an obsession toward the work of being greater and creating things. That's all they could find though, if they were looking outside in and didn't hear any of my philosophies, right? So what makes you someone that will really excel here though, is that you don't believe things. You look toward yourself to identify what it is that you are living with, that you're believing. Because, we could say we don't believe things, right? But then when we go somewhere, we kind of believe things. We don't know, right? And there are things that we don't know, right? So, for example, if we get on a plane, we don't know how to fly the plane, right? So on some certain level, we're leading belief here where I believe we could chalk it up to we're letting the pilot do what he does, right? But did we actually take the time every time to verify the particular pilot? Like when you take a flight, you go, yeah, no, it's it's John Wilcox. Yeah, he's a great pilot though. He's running a lot of missions, I've been on flights. I don't know who the guy that's flying the plane, you know what I mean? I don't know his expertise and stuff like that. Like I don't know what he ate in the morning, if he's, he just drank Red Bulls or he had coffee. I don't know what he did.
So
right?
There's some level of belief there.
Right, there's some level of belief there. Things that you don't know and things that you're allowed to be assumed. Just like when we go on a train, we may look at everyone, but we may not have the knowledge to get to gainfully deduct what every person is. Just like, like when you watch Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if you ever watched those Sherlock Holmes, like Sherlock Holmes, BBC.
The books, actually.
Well, the books and stuff, right? The thing about his character I always like the character, and I watch a lot of programs of Sherlock because I saw the BBC one, I saw the other one, right? Because he just does the knowledge to what people look like, and he basically analyzes their whole life. It's extreme sometimes, but it's like us, extremely doing the knowledge. We may not be able to do the knowledge to everybody, but we decide to go in the train car, let it close us with all these other people there. Right? And we say, listen, I'll be safe enough. People will be respectable enough, right? So there's always beliefs that mount up. It's how we identify the most important ones that we're relying on and try to eliminate them. That's why I call it bathing yourself with belief. You find those beliefs that are most important. The first one to find out always for a new student is yourself, right? One of them is, well, what am I eating? Because most of the time we eat things and we don't really identify them. Right? We just look at the cover of the bag, the cover of the box. You know what I mean? Somebody says that they gave you this food, but sometimes let's say you buy something from a restaurant, but you may not even know what oil they used to cook it. Right? So, like, all of these things, you're dealing with beliefs. So let's say, like, the first thing you could do is, I'm going to try to eliminate at least 90% of the belief that I have with whatever I'm eating. Make sure everything doesn't have pork. Make sure I know what's in it. So like if it has things that aren't good for you, like sugar or a lot of salt, I'm gonna make sure I know, even if I eat it and I mess up and I want to eat it, that I know how much salt it has. What's a lot? How to read the RDA. You know what the RDA allowances mean? When you read it, like it says 50% vitamin C and stuff. They decided how much vitamin C you should have. And then they said, this product here has 50% of what we said it should have. But then, how does he know how much I need? Right? So, you know that the vitamin C, 100% vitamin C, when it says that, that's 90 milligrams. That's not enough. That'll keep you from getting scurvy and hives. But it's not enough to, give you real health, right? The antioxidant that vitamin C is, it's a water soluble, so when you take vitamin C, it collects oxidants, right, pollutants, and exiles them, but it also runs out. When it's sunny outside, if you sweat, vitamin C runs out. So it's something you take little by day. Just as an example, right? You would know your B complex is fat soluble, so you take it once a day, and then it works the whole day, right? It's much slower to leave the body, right? So knowing these things, now you can take your food to another level. You start looking, what's in here? What's there? How much is in here? You know what I mean? What's the sodium in this? Well, where did it come from, right? What's a good salt? What's a bad salt, right? Doing the knowledge and taking away the mystery, the belief in everything you eat. Now you can figure out, when I try to read, I keep falling asleep. Then now you realize, wait a minute, maybe it's because I have that big spaghetti meal. And that spaghetti's made with wheat semolina. And that could get, when you eat a lot of that though, there's a lot of gluten. And that gets you tired. It's hard to digest, so it's slow to digest and you get sleepy.
Thank God. Can I just interrupt you real quick?
No,
right? God is great. Right? You see how he's building and he got all that. And a lot of it, you may not catch me out to rewind and tape to, but his greatness is an example of what you can do. Right, what I can be, and that takes a level of studying. It takes a level of dedication to the knowledge of self to achieve that level. So that's just an example. 'Cause I know he's building on these sciences, and a lot of it is like it's high science, right? It's like you're like, wow, like he's talking about like the RDA and the science of these different mills, and that takes a level of dedication to study. Like you taking notes, I'm taking notes too.
Yeah.
Right? I'm taking notes, and I'm recording, and like this is like my book of life. So I come here and I tap in with God because His greatness is an example of what I could do with myself, right? And my greatness is an example. So we come together to build, to add on, so that when you come along, like you're 24, right? My son just turned 25, so it's like, yeah.
Your son, you got, bro, you not, bro, you're 25. What are you talking about? What?
Well, nah.
What is wrong with this kid?
That's what I'm saying. Like, for real.
Like, you my age, bro.
My son,
Stop playing with me, bro.
My son just turned, so but
Sorry, man. You can be my daddy, bro.
I pass it down to him. And
Hell no.
what was most like this knowledge is for us to pass along, right? So as we build it up and get great as the way God is explaining it, is to be passed along, to be given. So you come in here, it's actually for you. It's for you. It's yours for you to come get, right? So I just wanted to add on with that.
Yeah, I apologize, dog. I apologize, bro. Like,
That's peace, God.
yeah.
A lot of times it's the attitude, you know what I mean? And I mean this, right? I love that you were quick to defend yourself, right, and speak up for yourself, right? But it's when you're alone, though, that I always tell people I want them to disrespect themselves. Disrespect the voice that says, hey, we did enough today. We're okay with this. Maybe I'll try again tomorrow. And I liken it to working out, right? If you have a great workout, right? Now I had one today, and thankfully I didn't have to go to work early, right? And I was like, I gotta rest up a little bit. I went too hard. Like the arms, I couldn't lift them. I was tired, right? But a lot of times people will do great in a workout, right? And then the next day, they're like, man, everything is just, I can't move. I earned it. I'm gonna take a day off because yesterday was great, right? And it makes sense, right? You earned it, right? But I'm saying it doesn't make sense. Why? If you had a horrible workout, right, and your body was sluggish the next day, you would say, it's not really working out for me. I'm gonna take a break and catch up with it later. You see? The tiredness of the body is always going to exist, though. You do a great workout, you'll be tired. You do a horrible one, you'll be mentally tired. You'll be like, yeah, it was horrible. You know what I mean? It'll exhaust you in different ways. So I'm saying, you gotta disrespect the body. When you do that, you start to find real ways why you're not doing anything. So when we say that there's no mystery, God, when I had the ideas of doing extreme things before I did them, right? So we talk about like learning, studying stuff. God knows I read at least 52 books a year, right? And it stays at 52, by the way. I keep it at 52 because when I get up to 52, I start reading like 800-page books. Like books that take forever to finish. So that way, in the beginning of next year, I get to finish them and then put them on the list as one of the 52 for next year.
Is that like your excuse, kind of like, I'm gonna kind of like,
yeah. No, but I read a certain
52.
I read a certain amount of pages every week, so it still has to get the
So
amount.
I mean, like if it's like 10,000 pages a year, when you get to like, like 9,000, like I have to slow down.
No, because it's a certain amount every week. It has to get there.
It has to be.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the thing about it was that when I started to do that, I would do like extreme things. Like I did things where I would stay awake and try to read for 24 whole hours. Not go to bed, nothing. I would fast so that way I wouldn't eat. Eating would take away from reading and stuff like that. No problem with going to the bathroom. I take the book to the bathroom. They didn't have this back then because all my books are in here. But I could go to the bathroom with the book. So I fasted. I was reading. All I did was listen to music, read, drink, read, drink. That's all I did, right? And the next morning, I had a headache, of course. But it started to go away. It started to go away when I reached the time, the 24-hour time. It's like 10 o'clock or something. I started to reach at 10 o'clock. And I realized I was getting high because I was excited about reading, you know what I mean? Reaching the time. But the amount of pages I read declined massively throughout the night. Like, it was really horrible.
Right.
Like, I was reading like one line and then just staring at the page. Like, I wasn't even falling asleep. I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't get through. I reached the threshold. And I think I read maybe like, at best, 150 pages that whole day, which is, by today's standard for me, is horrible. I could read 100 pages in 3 hours, easily, you know? If I don't get distracted and stuff, like ideas to write or things like that.
Build the muscle.
Yeah, but I disrespected it. I disrespected this idea of headaches and all that kind of stuff. So then when I used to get tired before, I would say, it's not me at fault. Like where you say, look, I just can't do it. You know how people have that? You'll be around people say, well, I just can't do it like that. I can't do it like you. I would say, listen, this ought to be done and it should be done. How can I do it? What is stopping me? So I was saying, then I would ask myself, is it something I'm eating that's wrong? Is it something I'm drinking that's wrong? Right? Obviously with the reading, the biggest thing was the and I've said this before, it was the sleep. If I don't have a certain amount of sleep, the reading will always be hampered, you know? Yeah, and then I realized when I slept well and I read, the focus is the other thing. Because I also, nowadays, like when I doze off a lot when I read, it's because I have other ideas. So if I get an idea and I start drifting off on the idea of what I just read, I'll doze off. So I remember, let me write that down, or let me just let it go because it wasn't a great thought, you know? But the thing was, I had to experiment with that. But if I went from the beginning that it's impossible to do these things, or like let other people do that, that's their thing, then it'll be their thing, okay? So I didn't become a music journalist though. In the beginning, I had like 3 albums. Like when I got into college, I probably had like altogether all genres. Probably had like 10 albums between me and my twin brother. So some of them ain't even mine. I'm just saying I have access to take it because he's got 10 albums. And I'm like, how am I supposed to be a music journalist? I haven't heard anything. It's like, right, 10 albums. That's even, if you pick one genre, that's almost nothing, right? So what do? I either start collecting and listening. Peace.
I got freedom here. You want to be a part of the case?
Peace. Sunez Allah. Peace.
You know y'all on the YouTube and stuff.
Okay, peace.
Yeah, grab a seat. And if I say anything, just let me know if you'd like me to expound on it or speak on it, build on it. All right. But what I'm saying is that there has to be a disrespect to the body. You know, not to punish it, but to understand it more. Right? Like, you lift weights though. You don't. What do they tell you? You lift to failure. What is failure though? It doesn't mean that the thing is falling on top of you. It means that your form is gone, right? A lot of times we do stuff, we don't really know what our failure point is though, and we don't really try. We don't know how much we can read, we don't know how much we can write. We tell ourselves, well, I'm not a writer though. That's because you never did that. But we're also oppressed. And I always put precedence on that because it means that we can also say, I never got the chance to do this. Right? As you look at things and say, I never got the chance to do that. Not so much so, that's not my thing. You see? So in this, to be a student of this knowledge of self, though, is to endeavor in things, though, with a fury. You know, I've been speaking about this a lot lately, though.
Can I add on to what you said? Because you said, like, disrespect the body, right? The language of that is interesting, right? But you're really saying, like...
I take an intense saying to it because, let's say if you train every day and you wake up early, right?
It was basically saying push yourself.
Right.
exercise?
About everything. About everything.
Yeah. Like
about
everything, yeah.
You know, because let's say when I wake up to train, right? I tell my kid this, right? Because she tries to get out of reading and stuff, right? So I say, listen, it's like the working out or it's like anything. The longer you stay awake without doing the task, the bigger probability you have of not doing the task. You know what I mean? I learned this with working out because I have kids, right? They're little, they were little, they like to play. You're not going to do anything. You got to wake up early and get it done then, right? So I got into a habit. I could wake up at 3, 4, or 5 a.m. to train. Like that's how early I wake up to do something if it needs to get done before something else, right? So the thing is though is that even if you slept the right amount of hours though, it's still difficult. Your body will still feel tired. They'll still feel something that's aching. If it was a good thing, a good training session before, you're gonna wake up with good soreness. There's always a reason not to do something. There's always a reason not to do more, right? And then what happens is that people don't do more. And then what happens is that people don't even do the basic, the minimal amount that they said that they would do. You see? And that's the problem though, right? So you lose your mindfulness of things. You lose your awareness of being in a situation saying, it matters now what I do and not before. Okay? So let's say you decide, oh, I don't know if I'm going to read every day. I don't know if I'm going to write every day. I don't know if I'm going to work out every day. Then you decide exactly when you will do it. Because these are beginning preparations in that task of writing your own history in advance. We're supposed to teach you supreme mathematics defines your principles and the nature of who you are. And when you call upon it, whether in the day's degree, today's understanding, whether you recall it through a degree in the 120 lessons, whether you're just thinking about the degrees, the truth is that those are details of who you are, and you are always those things. You're not God because you're using the math or this knowledge. You're God that is using this math and knowledge that is actually detailing you further, detailing your reality in a further degree. And if that's the case, then the activity is to actually what? Decide what you will be at all times. There's too many people, too many things that will get in the way of you not being exactly what you intend to be. And so you say, well, right now I'm going through a rough patch, this, that. Listen, I go through many rough patches though. I lived for years as only a freelance writer-editor. So we know I went through rough patches, right? And most of that freelance work was in music though. And you know, people don't like good music. People like bad music, right? That's the rule, right? The music rule is just the way the 85, 5, and 10 is. 85% like bad music. You know what I mean? I mean, as a technical thing, I mean, as pop music, it works on that level that way.
The negativity of the music?
I mean, everything.
Okay.
Or just bad music. Bad music, man. Right? Bad samples, bad drums.
as well. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So what I'm
Just
saying...
put context to it.
Yeah, baby. But what I'm saying is, you know, regardless to how it goes, right? Regardless of how people do it like that, you know, this is what hampers people. You know what I mean? And then we start to justify our own character based on that. You know, I'm not really that kind of guy that does that anyway. You know what I mean? Or we'll let things go. I go through, what I'm saying is I go through rough patches, but certain things that define me get done all the time. You know, so if I have money, if I don't have money, the training still goes on. If I can afford all these wonderful nutrients that take away the soreness, right? You know what I mean?
Proteins.
Extra chlorophyll, protein powders, right? You know what I mean? All of those things, right? The good vitamins and nutrients, the antioxidants. I take a lot. I take a lot of stuff, right? I'm always experimenting with those things, you know what I mean? Right? But even if I don't have them, I still train. I don't give the excuse that, look, now I don't have that, I don't train, because I think differently. I think in the future as opposed to the past, right? So let's say if I don't have the black seed oil and the curcumin and the antioxidants, right? Then I go, man, it's not gonna go good. I could glycate and doing all this heavy workout, you know what I mean? No, I think I don't have it now. I'm gonna still get it done. That means that when I do have it, those workouts will be even greater because I did these without that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Always think of a better future as opposed to suffer for what you are comparing to in the past. You know? Because things do have to get done. And things ought to be done great. And it'll get done greatly regardless to whom or what. You see? So these are things that, you know, this is really what I'm talking about. And a lot of times I tell people stuff that I know is exactly what they should hear as opposed to what they would want to hear. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it's about eliminating what you think you are and being what you actually are. A lot of what you actually are is looking through supreme mathematics and I say, I bear witness to this principle, I bear witness to this principle in mathematics, right? I bear witness that my culture is only my lived understanding. So that means that if it's not right and exact, then it's something I should be working to get rid of my culture. Even if I'm doing it now, that's wrong. When I have the wherewithal to be comfortable knowing that this is not right and exact, and I'm working to get it out, right? Because it's not based on understanding, and understanding is based on only on knowledge, right?
But that's dope though. That you just said my culture is my lived understanding.
It's a lived understanding.
The lived understanding. So that kind of goes in line with freedom comes with 40 or more.
Freedom comes what?
Freedom comes with 40 or more.
Uh-huh.
Meaning, like, you know mathematics? You know the mathematics?
Yeah, I'm capped at wisdom deals on 140.
Oh, yeah. So you all the way up there. Okay, so all right, so you got knowledge, wisdom, understanding. You got culture. Right? But, we got culture freedom. So, there's a saying in our nation that freedom comes with 40 or more. Right? The reason why, like, as he just mentioned, like, your culture is your lived understanding. So at 39, it's like when your understanding is complete. You can completely see. And now that you can completely see, now your culture, what you live, can be free. Because you can see. Meaning that you won't run into this limitation right here. You keep going, like now you can see, I can go around it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or go over it. So I can pick it up, whatever. Because you have the ability to see. Right? So it's understanding, as he said, the culture is your lived understanding.
Right, because when we look at it, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is a mental process. Right? The culture, right, the power, the equality is the outer. You know what I mean? Your culture goes out. The power that you have comes from the culture you live. And that is a force that goes out. It brings forth an equality, right? A different reality of your surroundings, a proper position of where you are now.
It's different. Showing your power.
Right. So that's all outside. And then you get the fruit of it all. The greater, most supreme you has been revealed. Again, God, you what? You change the reality around you, including yourself. That's build to destroy. And what? You fulfilled. You completed an elevated fulfillment. Okay?
What is existence?
I've been running to some confusion with understanding. I have my goals, but I've been doing knowledge on myself. So if your wisdom is a reflection of your knowledge, I'm speaking what I've learned and stuff like that.
I wouldn't use the word reflection.
Okay.
I don't use the word reflection. It's a use of your knowledge. Give it a more active word.
Application of your knowledge?
It's an application.
Okay.
Definitely, that's a good word. You know what I mean? But it's the use of your knowledge. The truth is that no one will use knowledge. I could have the same knowledge as you, particular knowledge, and I still will use it differently than you would. So it matters how we use knowledge. That's the reason why we have different understandings.
So understanding that's the result.
Understanding really is that what I like to call revelation of purpose. It's the reason why you use that knowledge. What is the ultimate that you got out of it? Right? And it is unique to you because only you can have it. It could be similar. It will be similar to many other people. Okay. That's why we end up being alike minds. You know what I mean? But it is still special to you. Right? And so that understanding those is something based on people accumulating knowledge. A lot of times you don't even get understanding unless you've accumulated enough knowledge. Right? Yeah. Because it has to compile itself first so it could be used in such a way. You know, most people expect knowledge to become things and they don't become anything because they haven't used it. You know, they haven't used enough, haven't collected enough. They don't know enough. You know what I mean? Right. Part of learning, especially this knowledge itself, is figuring out, being very good at figuring out what it is that you don't know. Right? How do you know what you don't know? You have to figure out what it is that you don't know. Right? And that takes work. Sometimes it just takes a blanket look, like the simple things. Visit a library, just look around. You know what I mean? You visit a library, you visit a bookstore, you start to see like, I'm not comfortable reading these books, but I don't know anything in there. I like these kind of books. I would like to learn more, but I'm comfortable reading those. Well, now you're gauging what you know and everything, right? You're the teacher and the student at all times, God. You're your own teacher. No matter what I tell you, you're deciding to learn because you have chosen to learn and said you should learn whatever's being told to you, right? So you're becoming your own teacher because you validate. You always remember that as being God, you validate who it is and what it is that you learn from. So you are always your teacher, your major teacher, and you're always your student because you are always learning, right? So these are the things, you know?
So you only learn what you teach yourself, right?
Yeah, because even if someone learns something from me, they still would have to accept that that is something worthy of learning.
Right.
And even then they would have to use it for themselves. They would have to wisdom it to see like, what is the relevance of it? What's the use of this? So let's say if somebody learned what I said and was saying it to someone else. It's like, he's just repeating what Sunez said. Yeah, I don't like it either. But if he does that, now he's going through a learning process in a different way. Because he's actually using it to say, I think this is true, what Sunez told me, and I'm saying it to someone else because I think it's valid that this person could learn this too. And now he's getting an introduction to see how it is to share that information. So he's not using it the way I thought he should use it first and foremost, but it's still being wisdom, right? And there'll be an experience to it that can actually, that might lead to some type of understanding, you know? The reactions, sometimes the relevance of it. Did that person understand it or see it the way that he saw it when he heard it from me, right? So these are all things to gauge, you know? But I'm always, in general, God, I'm always teaching the student to have to refuse all limits, you know? To throw them down. That's why I said to have a disrespect for that, you know what I mean? That's the best respect that you could have for yourself. To continually tell you, it should be done, and I know that I can get it done. You know what I mean? And I don't let anything get in my way, you know what I mean? I could be, when I'm training, right, there are some times, right, like this happened recently, so it's in my head fresh. But one of the parts of my training, though, is I'll do, to make it faster, because I don't always have time to do like intense cardio, it takes time. So I'll do 50 burpees in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Let's just do that. Right? And I was doing the burpee and the shoulder was really getting pain. So the first thing that went in my head is, I can't do the burpees, you know what I mean? And I said, I need to do the burpees though. Now I'm talking, encountering and completely disrespecting. Well, the burpee is a landing on your hands into the push-up, right? So I thought, just like with a regular push-up, why don't I just land differently? Put my hand in a different way so that the shoulder gets a different type of impact. So I ended up landing with the hand like this. Diving down. Yeah, diving down so the shoulder gets a different impact. And it wouldn't hurt here, it was hurting here. It was getting the workout here and then it wasn't hurting as much there. You know what I mean? And it still started to hurt. But by the time I got near the end though, it stopped hurting. And I said, see, man, I don't even know why I worry about that. Just fix it. Just change it. You know what I mean?
Pushing through the limit.
Right. You know what I mean? Because it ought to be done and it should be done. Happens all the time, guy. I'll do certain exercises where I say, listen, I'm going to try to write 10 pages in less than an hour. You know what I mean? And I focus and I do it. You know what I mean? And a lot of times the motivation is that, listen, it needs to get done. I don't have time. You know what I mean? I want to do other things. If I do this, then I can do other things. You know what I mean?
That's peace.
Right?
I'm a writer too, and I'm a poet. And
That's peace. That's
and
peace.
I wanted to ask you about your exercise as far as that goes. Like what with writing goes.
When
Is it a free write or you have like a focus and you just letting it go?
Well, let me tell you. Obviously, the scholarly works, music scholarly works, journalism, poetry, verses, right? These are all things I write and everything. I let the creativity come to me. So when I write in my journal mainly, is basically ideas about my life, what I've dealt with, and also the major crux is my commentaries on all the books I read. So all the books that I read, I have a whole app with all the books, and I have also a place where I put the books that I read already that I'm going to write about. And I just write about all the notes I took and everything like that. I actually write whole passages that I want to remember, and I write them all over again in the book. You know what I mean?
So you read them and you write
And
them.
I write, yeah, if it's worthy and I want to remember it. Even if I own the book, it's just exercise. It helps me remember these things. Because before, when I started to teach, though, I couldn't keep these books. I didn't have them. So that's how I started to get into that. Then, when it comes to like creative stuff, most of my creativity is basically just reading. I read a lot. You know what I mean? So I let the creativity just be tapping into what I know. So I feel like creativity is based on what you know and how you interpret it. You know? So I just interpret it the way it goes. You know what I mean? And because, look, I'm a music journalist, so I'm listening to creative works all day. You know? I really listen to music all day. Like, if you're with me and there's no music playing, then you go, what's wrong? You okay? You know?
Right.
There's music always playing, though. You know what I mean? And then usually I'm writing about hip-hop, so that's not even the music that's playing unless I'm working on it. You know? So I'm playing all types of other music. You know? So I'm always trying to absorb other things. And I think that's one of the best ways to be creative is just by absorbing a lot of art. You know? Like I say a lot of times, my brother has he's an actor and he has a huge film collection. And he gives me access to it. So I have access to like 2,000 movies. He adds to it all the time. Along with all these other apps that have tons of movies, you know. So all this creativity, I just try to absorb it. You know what I mean?
Let me add, you inspired me, right, in terms of like writing. I say, you're fucking journalist, right?
You definitely are, though. You definitely are.
Right. So
Yeah.
you know, I have an app on my phone, like the notepad on my phone,
Right.
and you know, so when I'm watching movies, I'm taking notes. When I'm in class with you, like I'm taking notes, right? When I'm on the train, I'm taking notes, and then I like sum it all up and I put them all together,
Yeah.
and I put them to the side, right?
Right.
And then you know, and then there's also like I was telling you about the whole Chat GPT thing, is now to analyze this, right? And it gives me back oh yeah, you're saying this, that, and third, right? So it's like having a conversation back with the Chat GPT, but
Interesting.
right? But it's all start rooted in stuff like my stream of thought from. You know, what I'm writing.
Right,
You know what
man.
I'm saying? Like, you know, like the Parliament, I recorded the Parliament, the last Parliament, so I'm just taking notes. So then I put it in there, as I'm editing and say, okay, give me a rundown of what I just said. You know, what I just wrote. You know, I just shared as far as, you know, what I wrote about the Parliament. And it'll give it back to me, like, you know, and put it in order. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like I said, but a lot of that's like inspiration from like you.
No, it's P.E.A.C.E, yeah. I'm always telling everybody that they should write, though.
Yeah, right.
And when I do, it means you should, you know?
But I see the power in it.
Yeah,
I see
yeah. And you know, all the students, I tell them to have a journal and write about their life, because if you see yourself as a true and living God, whose life is better to write about?
Right.
Nobody's. And even if you're writing just poetry, if that's the main goal to get to poetry, you still should try to write prose. They'll come out as beautiful as anything else, though.
Define prose?
You know, prose is just really like your thoughts about things, long-running sentences, paragraphs of your ideas. You know what I mean?
That's what I do. Like,
Right? So those should get written down too, because they can be written poetically as well.
Right.
They can lead to poetic, or even if you just say, I just care about sharing poetry, then the great lines could be extracted. So if you write prose and you just write like, let's say, my experience here this day. Like, let's say you went on a date that was totally horrible, but it was like interesting at the same time, you know?
You write about it, right?
Yeah, you write about it though, that has a lot of jewels in it. And then let's say I only care about poetic forms and the stanzas, I only want it to look like that. You can extract, you may drop a jewel in that format. It's always good to try other formats, you know what I mean?
I was dealing with a wisdom who challenged me to journal like for like 30 days straight. And for like a long time, like, I guess my gripe with it was like, I was kind of scared of it, actually. Because I was like, yo, I can hide behind metaphors, I can hide behind similes, you know,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. what I'm just like saying exactly how
That's
I
one of
feel.
the reasons that I have students write a journal, because your word is bond means the most to you. And the word is bond that is broken the most is the one that you give yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so if you have a habit of keeping your word is bond to yourself, one of the best ways to see that, to see it outright, is to see you writing in your journal. Write about the things you expect, write about the things you intend to do, and you can see, you know? But it's okay to write in a journal. And also too, right? The journal shouldn't just be over emotionalized. It shouldn't just be about what you're experiencing, this and that. You know what I'm saying? I don't do all that. Sometimes I don't even keep those thoughts in there.
Right.
And I remember that because I was thinking about, I started writing a journal because I couldn't keep all these books I was taking from the library. Because I always remember the book that made me get a journal, Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. I started to rip out every page that was good. And then by the time I got to like page 100, I was like, yo, I can't hand this book back. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like a pamphlet. Because every page was like dropping it. So I said, I'm going to have to just start writing things down. You know what I mean? And I was in college. I can't afford to just make photocopies of everything. So that's when I started to write the journal. So a lot of my journals, the things that I learned, the things that I come across, you know, understandings that I have. As God, your journal should be filled with understandings. The activity is like, what's today's mathematics? And you go through it. But understandings that you have during the day, they are worthwhile. They need to be collected. You know? Sometimes I write in the journal, I don't know enough about this. I don't know anything about this. You know what I mean? These are things to write down in your journal. They're journalizing your life, your ideas and stuff. And they teach you how to be more honest with yourself. That audience that you speak to could be yourself, or could be someone else in the future, or your children. It doesn't matter who you're writing to. You know?
Jeez.
But it's something that good writers should always do. You should always have a journal. There's too many ideas, too many things you experience, though. You know what I mean? To not have it like that. You know?
I mean, nowadays they don't really talk too much or build about the book of life, right?
Yeah.
Right. The
Yeah.
book of life is like it's your journal.
Yeah. Because your book of life is not just supposed to be like a collection of plus lessons and 120 that you get, but it should be a collection of your notes that you get in the class that you win, when you builds with your enlightener, whoever it is, right? But it also should be a collection of your understandings. Because when you have an understanding, right? Let's say you get an understanding on a degree. Man, memorize that. That's your go-to. That's what you should know. Memorize your understanding. If it's shown and proven and it's right and exact and it's yours, you need to memorize it.
Okay.
Some people don't remember their own understanding. And I remember this. I remember having to say this because I had a student that he would write me an understanding for every single class. He'd write me an essay. But then when I had him build on the 1 to 10, he quoted perfectly everything, and he started to build, and I was like, okay, give me a build on the understanding degree. I remember it was the understanding degree. And he was stuck. I said, how you don't have an understanding? I've been with you long enough that you've been here in the 3rd class, and I have essays from you from the 3rd day of the month.
He didn't memorize his own understanding.
And I was like, yo, you need to memorize your own understanding, because that's builds you up. And I learned seeing it, because look, remember Dumar, he memorized everything. Everything. He had all these plus lessons, national statements, he memorized them. He did not need them to sift through. You know?
Do you know who Dumar is?
No.
Dumar Wadi was one of the great gods in this nation. He was the only official national spokesperson of this nation, you know? And he went to colleges speaking about this nation, representing us, and he just was an incredible builder, you know? And he wrote a lot of plus lessons, meaning his understandings, right?
So that's a plus to me.
That's what a plus lesson is, yeah.
Yeah, anything outside of 120 lessons, you know.
Right, yeah.
Messiah is also, quoted as saying that, a plus degree is, your GED or your high school diploma. That's also a plus degree. Right? But plus degree is it's like your understanding or somebody else's understanding.
Right.
Like I just shared an understanding with you about understanding, right? I see it in culture.
Right.
So that could be a plus degree.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But all of that, God, all of that. You know what I mean? Like I said, disrespect the storehouse. That it's limited. That the mind is just this or that.
And more.
It has endless amount of things. You know what I mean? Because one thing could make the other thing greater. You know what I mean? Yeah, it could make the other thing greater. You know? But God knows, I only started actually recording any kind of raps or songs or anything just a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah. You know? And it actually has made all the other writing I do even greater. You know? So, obviously, making music makes me it gives me a new perspective as a journalist, right? Because I've been on both sides, and right? And all of the great journalists I studied that I really loved, they all actually were musicians, you know what I mean? Like, they actually became musicians, or they were already.
Like all the best analysts, boxing analysts, fighters.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, you know? And of course, you could be a great music... Listen, it's my own ego, but I was a great music journalist before I wrote a rap, you know what I mean? Right? I already did it for like almost 20 years, over 20 years before I rapped, you know what I mean? But the thing was is that you add on, you take all the avenues of creativity, you know what I mean? You know, just like having to lecture here every week, because I've been teaching this class since 2000. Having the lecture here every single Thursday for the last 25 years, that adds on to everything else I do, right? So it gives me, so if someone thrusts me, because they do, thrust me, hey, we want you to speak in front of these people, I don't really get nervous. There's nothing more nerve-wracking than building in front of the older gods, scrutinizing your builds and stuff. I could go anywhere, shit. I could go, you know what I mean? Like this. I've been on radio, I've been on people's shows, nothing, I don't get nervous. There's nothing like this. Nothing. Nothing. And if people don't know, they didn't build here. They didn't have to get their 120, get their flag here. You know what I mean? You know? I had to quote the whole 1 to 40 and build on it. With Knowledge Me, my enlightener there. And then everybody came in. Kaleem, Firstborn Prince. I think Aleem came. Everybody just came walking in. I was like, oh no. Oh man, this is going to go horrible. You know what I mean? You know what I did? I'm nearsighted. I don't see perfectly from far. I took off my glasses. It's just gonna be me, what I'm seeing. And I didn't pay attention. I just built, you know what I mean? They asked me a question. I didn't say, that's the mighty firstborn prince. I just answer the question. Answer the question. You know what I mean? And I prevailed, you know what I mean?
Do you know any of those names that he's mentioning?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. Firstborn Prince. I read this book. It's called Why I'm a 5%. He's mentioned in it.
Okay.
Well, Firstborn Prince did not write that book.
That's what I was about to say. Like, wait, he didn't write the book.
Okay, he's mentioned in it.
He's mentioned it though, okay? And remember, those aren't good books though. That was written by Michael Muhammad Nagno, who was a charlatan.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why I'm a 5%, yeah. Okay? So I read that book too. So, you know, just in case, you know. And I told him, you know.
Where'd you get the knowledge from?
I didn't know that my uncle was a god, but he would always say peace when he would greet me when I was a kid and stuff like that. So like he was supposed to be my enlightenment, but he was kind of half stepping on it. So I did it myself.
So you did it yourself, meaning you?
I got a book and I studied, and yeah, every time I meet a god, I build.
So your lessons, where do they come from?
I got the 120 over Amazon.
Of where?
Over Amazon.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you gotta
Amazon will get you a package though, but they can't send 120. Yeah.
So this culture, right?
Yeah.
It's not a culture that you get offline, right? It's not a culture that you get on the internet or anything like that. Like, you did the right thing by coming here and building, right? So you say you're all the way at the 140, right? And like, is there an order that you went into, or how did you?
I did the mathematics first, did the alphabet, did the 1 to 10. It's all in order in the book.
Okay, so what?
What book is it again?
It's
that yellow book?
No, it's black. It's 120 degrees. I forgot the author, but
God Supreme.
Maybe I think so.
Nah, that.
Yeah. Those.
Listen, what you have to do, because I had some degrees when I got here and I met my enlightener knowledge me, right? You have to find who it is that will be your enlightener, the person to take you through 120. Obviously, I'm here. I offer myself, but that's your decision, not mine. Okay? And you have to go through all of it all over again. Because guaranteed, whatever you show me, I'll find you a degree that's wrong in there. Guaranteed. It just never fails.
I was talking to
If you got that shit off Amazon, it's got a wrong degree in it. Because all the other books, that yellow book that says the 120 got the flag on it, that shit, I read that. That shit has mad degrees wrong in it. Yeah.
I was talking to God outside, and I thought I quoted a degree directly in knowledge, understanding, when it said what brings rain out snow earthquakes.
What brings rain?
You said what brings, right?
What brings, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's wrong.
The
Yeah.
build one was like what makes, right? And I thought that.
And you said no, the 13th was what brings, right? Yeah, but you have it wrong because that's when Allah the Father had it. He changed that degree to say but brings rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. Okay. And you got to know the reasons why and all that. That's why you have to have enlightenment.
Let me ask you, okay, so your second degree of the 1 to 10, do you know that?
Who is the colored man?
Okay. Go on.
Is the Yakubian.
No, not
Yeah.
Kubian.
I mean,
Okay, so now, so when
Caucasian white man, Yaku grabbed the devil. That's what's up with it. Yaku grabbed the devil.
of the planet Earth, okay, so, because some degrees say it's come to the planet Earth.
Right.
You don't have that.
No.
Okay. I just wanted to know but yeah, so it's a Caucasian white man, all Yaku's grabbed the devil of the planet Earth. So yeah, you would want to, even though you have that history of buying it online, you would want to get, like I said, with somebody who's been educated, who's called educated.
Yeah.
Who's going to walk you through it. Who's
Yeah,
gonna,
I'm educated. I can't make it out here often because of work, so it's like.
no, it's even still, like even if it's on the phone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
If you came here, the fact that you came here, that shows, you know.
Yeah, because you don't have to be here every day.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But yeah, you got to find somebody, and we're here, so it depends on you. You know.
And where you from?
The desert.
In the desert. Okay, so you know the language, right? You know
Right.
you know some of the things that. And you say your uncle was half seven.
He was far teaching me.
Okay, but you got that far, and you can you say he's a God. He's always in the same piece. Now you actually examine him, right? And, well, peace, uncle. He says peace. He uses peace.
Right.
You know, how do you see peace? You know, I got this book somewhere. You know, what do you think about it? Right now, you can kind of visit his mind and give it. You know, 'cause now you know something, right? So you come here and now you kind of you exercise it. The idea is like to you get it word of mouth as opposed to just online, studying online. There's a lot of things that you're gonna probably look at like that. What or what? You're gonna kind of like you don't know what is the cultural context of it.
Right.
So now you have a better.
So why would you change the but versus what?
Well, what is the so it's like saying, you know, it's like putting a doubt, right? So what brings rain, hail, snow, earthquakes?
Yeah, when Allah changed it, his reasoning was that from what I learned from Firstborn Prince, every time he would ask the gods if they did what he asked them to do, they would always say but. So he said but brings rain, hail, snow, earthquakes. See? And those little quirks and stuff though have to deal. You have to get to learn. You have to learn the details of what Allah was trying to do, what He actually achieved. You know what I mean? His intentions. You need to know all these things, and you're not just memorizing the 120. Because really, those lessons come from the mosque. They're not teachings for us to believe. They're teachings for us to utilize and analyze with. It's a tool. It's a supreme tool. You know, and if you don't get it from someone directly like that, and in communication, you know, then you won't know why you're saying certain things. It is certainly arcane. Arcane meaning that it's something that you have to know the reasons why certain words and what meanings are, and they're not just conventionally where they could be looked up in the dictionary for context.
Right.
You know. Right?
So did you get to your 136? You know that degree?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the 28th degree of the 136?
It's They I'm nervous because
Oh, that's peace, guys. Yeah.
But I got it.
Okay.
They was because they thought they was gonna get gold.
No, you kind of skipping over something there. So, can the devil fool Muslims? No, not nowadays. And you didn't say the devil fooled them. How long?
Yes, 379 years ago. Cause he thought he was
No,
gonna. The trader made a deal that he would receive gold for his labor more than any
You
other
have a
country.
deal? That's what it says. A trader made a deal?
Yeah.
Okay, so, have you ever heard deal? A trader made a deal?
No.
That he received gold more than he was earning.
I mean, you're close, right? So a trader made it. A trader made an inter-orientation
Into orientation.
stating he would receive more gold for our labor in this nation. That we will receive more gold for our labor in this nation. Right? So, some people might even argue it was the word. Have you heard interpretation too, right? The trader made it.
Yeah, that's wrong too, though.
Right.
Oh,
So,
it says interpretation.
oh, yours has interpretation. Okay.
Yeah, that's
you
wrong
said
too.
deal, right?
I'm paraphrasing.
No, you don't want to paraphrase, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just say you don't know the degree. Paraphrasing is not. You have to quote exact, though. You know.
Right. So
Even if you stumble, just know, like, if you don't have it, you don't have it. Okay.
Right.
But yeah, interpretation. Yeah, it's not interpretation. Though. It's like the
no,
word
it's
doesn't
not,
even.
no, but there are those who have
It
that.
does. Yeah, and it's like it doesn't even make sense in the context now when you say interpretation.
because inter-orientation is,
I thought that interpretation made sense because we didn't speak his language, or he didn't speak our language.
Nah, because interpret means that it's your version of stuff. That's not what was being shared. Into orientation, there was something specific being shared.
Alright.
You know, right? Interpret also implies that they translated. That's not what they did
That's
either.
what I thought.
Yeah, that's not. No, it'd be incorrect. Into orientation means two groups of people have different languages that they speak, and one is sharing and indoctrinating an idea to the other.
convincing.
Yeah.
It's a convincing, like you're
Mhm.
convincing somebody.
Yeah, so it's an old word that you don't see unless you look it up in really old sociological works. I think I've only found it like 2 old books. You don't see it used, but
So like Langston Hughes was right.
nah, way before. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, way before. But
Well, you talking about like inter-orientation was before
Yeah.
Langston Hughes? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like the 20s, right?
I've seen it. Yeah, it was a little older than that. But
Like 1800s, like dictionary. Like you talk about old English dictionaries.
yeah.
Right? Now, so this goes into the context of the authors of 120 Lessons, Louis W.D. Farr and Elijah Muhammad, right? And their education, you know what I'm saying, and how he came across that word, why he was using that word,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And it predates a lot of what we have now, so like, it gives you an education into the English text.
So how did the words get changed over time, like from orientation?
Well, I mean, because
There's an oral tradition.
Yeah, all
People didn't write it down. They were just quoting it to each other. And they weren't quoting it in sets. They were quoting it like degree by degree. So it's pretty remarkable how close it kept.
So
You know?
Farr and Elijah didn't write it down?
No, they did.
Oh, they did.
But
they
the
did.
way the gods got it,
Yeah.
they were just quoting it to each other. You know? And remember, when the father left the Nation of Islam, he did something that the other Muslims didn't do. He memorized it. So he was not walking with a pen and with a paper written down what these teachings are. He had already memorized it.
Right. So he wasn't giving it on the
Yeah.
to the young. He was
Yeah.
quoting it to them.
So that's why he urged the firstborn to memorize it.
Right. That's why our nation.
He urged them to memorize it because that's what he was doing.
Right. Yeah.
If he memorized it, no, you learn it and I'll tell it to you.
Right.
They wrote it down and they were encouraged to write it down as students, right? You're gonna let a student be a student.
But to study and to memorize.
Yeah. And a lot of them didn't because some of them couldn't read. Like Wise Jamel couldn't read. You know? So, God, I'm gonna be here for like 10 minutes more because I have to go.
Okay.
But, yeah. Anything you wanted to build on, definitely.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to just touch on last week. You know what I'm saying? Like you said something that I thought was profound in terms of the legacy human.
The legacy, oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a term I didn't make up. Legacy human is a term that they use for, you know, in this concept of AI, that when AI becomes able to reconstruct individuals, they will be a new type of human. And those who refuse to have that, refuse to have a chip, refuse to have the bionic arm, refuse to have the implant in the brain, those will be the legacy humans, you know?
Yeah. So was it a specific author who or someone who coined that?
No,
term?
I've read it in different places.
Okay.
I could find out I've read who started to say that, but I don't remember. But I've read that in different texts on
Right.
AI, so it's not attributed like to just like one guy saying it.
Right.
It became a way of saying it.
No, I just thought that was interesting because
Yeah.
you know the way things are going, especially with you know the chips and even with the video games and augmented realities.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
with the glasses and everything.
Right.
They're making a new people. Right. You know, like you said, you know, Yakub made a devil, but then you say that now the devil is making it actually another people.
Well, see, we're creators, right?
We're creating.
And the major problem with AI is that we don't do the work that it takes to create. You know what I mean? I think creation goes all the time in a love, hella, right form, right? 12th letter, love, hella, right? It's knowledge, wisdom to the understanding. It's your love, the intent you have to the creation to be made, to go through the hell of work, to come out right with that work, right? And one of the things that AI takes away, though, is all the hell that it takes to get to that right. It takes away a lot of the hell. It also can replace a lot of the love, a lot of the information, a lot of the intention that you have to create. It takes away a lot of that, you know? And that's where it's going. It's not being used like the way you were telling me how you use ChatGPT. It's not an input of my creations to order them or just to organize them. It's basically something to actually get me to a creation. And that's why we have a real problem, because if the original people, if original people stop creating, technically by that philosophical premise, that we would stop being. If we are creators, if we don't create, then we're not creators. Then we didn't create this. And we would fall victim, ideally. Ideally, to something else that can continue, you know? That can continue to mobilize, you know? So all of these envisioned ideas of like the Matrix, Terminator 2, all these kind of things, these are technically all things that a lot of people say AI can actually get to, because it's collecting enough information that it already has a computing AI that could compute things that we would not be able to understand. Once it gets to that point, though, technically on many levels we wouldn't really be able to discern if it's sentient, you know, if it has its own sense of being, because it would be doing things that we wouldn't even be able to compute or understand. So when it becomes sentient, we wouldn't even know.
Right.
Like we really wouldn't understand.
That's the wicked part of
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And how to fight against that, like, you know, as we was building on last time I was here, it was like, you know, building our own AI as opposed to having an AI.
Yeah.
And like each family should have their own AI, or each, you know.
And you know, part of me is like what they call a Luddite. If you ever heard the word Luddite, you know, Luddite. A Luddite is someone that is against all technology. You know what I mean? So you see it in you know, in all generations of life, you'll see someone that you'll see people like you know, I don't know about the CD, you know. I remember when CDs came out, people were like, I don't know about this, you know what I mean? And they were like, it's enough with doing cassettes, you know what I mean? The vinyl's the best, you know what I mean? And all of these things, and you know, all we could think was like, but we could transport or like, and all these things. But you know, by the way, the major difference between digital and the cassettes and definitely vinyl is because the actual digital is a completely true facsimile recreation of what you recorded. The vinyl actually isn't, though. It's just that all the work over the years of EQing and developing a way to record people were able to make specific sounds that they could capture in a certain way with the vinyl, and that's why it sounds special. Whereas the digital gives you exactly what you input into it. So technically the digital is the more true recording though. And yet, for us, it's not like, you know, doesn't sound as true. But, you know, I don't know. I for one, though, I see it already. You know, I see not so much young students because they're not with that, but older students in college, they're not really able to, they're not going to have to write a paper, you know? They've got AI not to just give an answer. Before it was just a bother, you Google up the research, which by the way, in our day, the research was difficult to do because we really had to dig in books and find parts, use indexes, you know what I mean? And different indices to find the information we were looking for. Nowadays, you don't really have to do that. You can find the information fast. But with the AI, it allows people to have an input where it could collect and give you information. It could make it seem like you wrote it. It could give you a style of writing, you know? And these are detriments though, because once people do that,
They become atrophied.
yeah, you know, like they don't have to struggle and fight to find their nature. It's a very difficult thing. You know, the quest to find your nature is what makes you unique. You know what I mean? That's why when you get knowledge, you have to use it. There's a struggle there. There's a struggle to use the knowledge to get to your own understanding. Well, what happens is that if you don't have to struggle, wisdom, you don't have to get to an understanding, you're being given ideas, then that means that everyone will have the same knowledge, but also be as the same. That's a lot different than what we teach as A alike. You know? A alike, B alike, so we see alike. That's alike. This is more like knowledge exact. You think, use it exactly. You perform exactly. You know? And
You just have this set of knowledge.
yeah,
The
and
knowledge is not infinite
who's
now.
to say
Now it's that.
who's to say that it takes away the mind that questions?
Hmm.
Because that's where AI is gearing up the way the governments are using it, right? Right? AI is gearing it up so that you don't question things, right? So they have more control of you. So you have a watch, right? Your Apple Watch that tells you everything about your health. But soon enough, it'll tell you what you need to do and what you will do and what we will expect of you to do for your health. You know what I mean? And that sounds good right now, correct? Because everybody's obese and everybody's in horrible health, right? Everybody has like 4 or 5 comorbidities if they're past 50. You know what I mean? But that really has a way of more control, right? The vaccine cards, right? Vaccine chip that they were trying to pitch, right? Right? You will go under this health. You will be under this. You know what I mean?
So it's inevitable in a way, but in fighting back.
I think, yeah.
If
But you know,
I'm
in the
right-
devil's civilization, I took it as a... Once I became radicalized, even before I had knowledge of self, it was a given that everything would be fought for.
Right. So you have to fight. So how?
Right.
Getting back to fighting back. This is more so like.
Yeah, I think
how
it's...
you
I don't think it's not to just throw away all technology. I think it's way to always acknowledge where is the creativity in the technology. When I use this, how am I being the true and living God using this technology? You know what I mean? How does this add on, you know? Because, you know, I'm the first one to say I have all these books here, right? You can build with me. I have like a collection of over 6,000 books digitally that I can share, you know? That gives me an option because, you know, I've been buying books my whole life, but I can't fit 6,000 books where I live.
Right.
I can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I absolutely can't fit my music collection if it wasn't digital. You know what I mean? If it was just the smallest thing, if it was just CDs, I ain't got that space either. You know what I
So
mean?
now is the idea of being able to preserve it, because you have all this right now to
Yeah.
preserve it, and then to be able to also distribute it.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
So if something would have happened.
I don't think I would have collected a digital library if I couldn't distribute it.
Right.
You know, like I don't buy books off Kindle because it's almost like you lease a book. It's not really yours. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't like buying it.
So it's like the same thing.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Spotify, something like that.
I'll get books off Kindle and things like that when they're free. You know, well, it's free. I take it. But if I can't share a book I got, it's not mine. You know. So I very rarely buy it like that. I might as well just
Right,
get
that's what I'm saying.
get
It's the
physical.
same size
Yeah,
of,
so
the Spotify. Right?
yeah, that
You
yeah.
can't really,
One thing, I use YouTube Music because I can put my own music in there, but I can't. I also can't go around buying all the music I would like to buy because it would be too much. And I also want to hear everything. So I hear things that are whack. I hear things. I want to hear everything. I want to know why I don't like stuff. Everything, and so you can't buy everything. But the thing about those services that are good is because they're giving you a reservoir. I treat it more like a library I have access to, as opposed to like, oh, I don't get to own the music. I look at my music subscription more as like I could tap into a vast library of music that is nearly endless because I want to hear everything, you know. So I like, for example, I love Miles Davis, right? And I bought actually like about 50 of his albums, but there's a couple I don't have, you know. And then other people, there's live albums. You know, jazz never ends. It seems like they have like 1 million live albums of everybody and all that, and 1 million interpretations. You know what I mean? No one interprets the music and records it more than jazz, and I want to hear all that. So now I have the library to tap into that, though. You know, I don't have a vast rock collection, but if I show you the playlist I have, it's immense. So I want to hear everything. You know?
I mean, in that case, it's dope. But but I also like to know, like, have you ever heard that saying, like, well, what's in your wallet?
Yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What's in your
Because
wallet?
they don't make like the book collecting like Kindle. They have it like that, but it doesn't help me like that because I need to have these books to continue to go back to. So I need some type of ownership of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a little different.
And I want to, like I said, if I ask you, like, what's in your library, I get more of a sense of who you are,
Right,
what you're about, right? Like,
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
You know, as opposed to you say, yeah, just let's go to my, Kindle, library, and it's like.
It would be harder,
Yeah,
it would be harder, yeah. But buying books, I never was able to read. I couldn't read 52 books a year if I had to buy them all. And libraries sometimes don't have all the books I want. You know, usually there are a couple of books I get from the library because I can't find them. Even to buy them, I wouldn't even be able to find them. You know, so the library is always something to use, but it's rare. It's for rare books and for comics because I can't read comics on the phone, and I like reading comics too. You know.
I have to bounce, but I would love if.
That's peace. I'm about to go too. Yeah.
You said you do what you want?
Take my email, God.
Yeah, I'll definitely need an enlightenment.
Absolutely. Take my email and my math if you. Sunez97 SUNEZ @gmail.com.
You must do your own research, as I did.
INFMEGA did this.
SUNEZ @gmail.com. That's my. All right. And